Welcome back, family, to the South Florida Recruiting Report. Marcus Benjamin here representing for Rivals.com, South Florida Recruiting Analyst for Rivals and On 3. And as we do on this show all the time, we're going to talk recruiting, but it's transfer portal season. So we're going to talk a little bit about the transfer portal and talk about some programs in the Sunshine State to really see how they project for this 2026 season. And at the end, we'll see who we think is going to win the national championship between Miami and Indiana. And to discuss it all, I've got my guy Andy Villamarzo from On Three Rivals High School to really kind of discuss a little bit about recruiting and the transfer portal. Thanks for joining me today, Andy.
Hey, thank you, Marcus, for having me on again.
Absolutely, always great to have you on. When you're on, I feel like we could talk for hours upon hours, but we'll try to squeeze this into maybe 30 to 40 minutes or so. So, first off, man, it's been a crazy transfer portal past couple of weeks with, you know, transfers going to different schools on the college and the high school level, man. It's been a little crazy when it comes to that. And we'll get into that in a second. But I do want to discuss some of the 2026 signees. One particular, Darion Coleman, the quarterback out of Orlando Jones, who, of course, signed with the Miami Hurricanes. First off, Andy, Coleman is a guy that you've seen over the years. What's your thoughts on him, and how successful do you think he'll be with the Miami Hurricanes eventually?
Well, I think in watching him in the last couple of state championship games and seeing him in the regular season, calm feet. I mean, one of the just more pure passers in the state. Just seeing him in this most recent state championship game against Plantation American Heritage, I thought, I mean, take away some mistakes in the first half, and we could be easily talking about Coleman raising the trophy for Orlando Jones. But, I mean, he finished a prolific high school career, and how that translate over to the college level, I think it's going to be predicated on, does he stay? Because now you look at all the college athletes and seeing the re-signing posts that are being posted by colleges around the country. I think all these players are on kind of 1 year rentals, I'll say. And it's going to be on, does Coleman stay there the entirety and see that development? Because now I mean, you got to actually follow through if you want to see yourself developing, at that school that you initially signed with. If you're there for a year and then you're moving on somewhere else, which we're seeing a lot more of, especially this transfer portal season. I mean, it's really hard to say, because does he immediately step onto the field next year? I mean, as talented as he is, I don't know if that's something that's going to happen right out of the gates, unless if he just kind of blows everybody away with his talent, which isn't out of the realm. I mean, if we're looking at kids that could be college ready, I mean, he might be as college ready as there is when you're looking at high school quarterbacks in the state of Florida, going from their senior year and into their freshman year of college. So I think he could translate very well on the college level. It's just going to be, does he actually stay at Miami longer than that freshman season? And that remains to be seen.
Yeah, that's the big question for me. And when you look at the landscape of college football right now, it's hard to believe that any player will stay with the team that they originally signed with, because you've had hundreds upon hundreds of players jump into the transfer portal in the past couple of days. Some of them quarterbacks as well. We saw Sam Levitt, a player that Miami was interested in, go to LSU, And it seems like Miami's on that same path of getting a transfer quarterback as they did in these last 2 years with Cam Ward and Carson Beck. If you're a Luke Nickel who's on the roster, or if you're even an Emory Williams who's also on the roster as a quarterback, you probably don't have the best chances to be a starter unless an injury happens. So I think that Darion, this is going to be a hot take, Andy, but I don't think Darion Coleman ever starts at Miami.
Oh, wow.
To be honest with you, man, I don't think he ever starts at Miami. I know it's a it's a take that is maybe premature, but it's just kind of the landscape of college football right now. Like I said, right now you've got Emory Williams in front of him, you've got Luke Nickel in front of him as well, and whatever potential transfer quarterback is in front of him, right? So it's hard to believe that he would stay the entire time, es- especially if Shannon Dawson, who has had the offensive coordinator at Miami, has had a lot of success, with the Hurricanes, leaves for another job, because we all know that happens, right? When a team is successful, as Miami has this season, there's going to be a lot of colleges that are going to be looking to add him as a head coach. And I'm sure Dawson will jump on that opportunity to be a head coach, as all coaches do. So if that happens, that's more of a reason why I think Darian Coleman probably does not play at Miami. I think it's better for these quarterbacks to start at a smaller school, maybe like a group of five type of school, or maybe a low end, I guess you could say, power four school, to really kind of develop yourself, develop your stats, get some tape, and then you transfer to like a big name school, as we're going to see with Teron Dickens, Tiger, who played at Miami Northwestern, won state championships, and then ended up going to Western Carolina, of all places, right, to play for the Catamounts.
Yep.
and then balls out over there, and now he's potentially going to be a power four quarterback this season, with a lot of teams very much interested. Syracuse, I heard, is interested. Florida State also, I heard, is interested as well. So I think that's kind of the better path for these quarterbacks now, unless you are a five-star guy that's probably going to jump in immediately. I think it's better for you to go to a lower level school to gain some tape, to put some stuff on tape, because players like Emory Williams are just going to get buried on the depth chart. He doesn't have a lot of tape, and this guy could probably play in the NFL given his size.
Yeah.
So I think that a lot of quarterbacks are in that situation. Darion Coleman has a ways to go when it comes to developing, I think. I do want to say he's got the prettiest release that I've probably ever seen on the high school level. I'm not doubting his talent at all. I watched him last year at Battle Miami win that championship basically with his arm alone. So I'm not doubting his talent at all. I am concerned a little bit maybe about his decision making, because he seems to run a little bit too much for me. And if he does that on the college level, he is probably not going to have a very long career. Let's just say that.
Right. Yeah.
Uh, so yeah, so it's just a prediction to see, to just based on what I've seen in college football. There's no disrespect to Darion Coleman, and Balin Trujillo is probably gonna come at me because I said what I said, but I don't think he starts in Miami, bro.
Oh, it broke up that entire time. So if you threw a question back at me, I'll just kind of touch on what quarterbacks developing at a smaller school first before transferring to a bigger Power Four named school. I mean, I agree. I think that could be a path that a lot of these guys end up taking, just because the importance of seeing the field sooner rather than later is inherited your development
You're breaking up a little bit, Andy. I'm not hearing you very clearly.
just
Not hearing you very much, Andy. I don't know if you want to jump off and maybe jump back on here. Um, but yeah, just to Andy's point, I
quarterback.
started to hear a little bit of.
Oh, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you better now.
Okay. I was just touching on kind of following up on your point of quarterback starting at a smaller school before heading off to a bigger Power Four college. I mean, I agree. I think that's something a lot of these guys should look into more in the future, and just kind of not looking at the name, not getting fixated on being at the biggest school to start off at, just because what's more important nowadays? Getting that time on the field, getting the film, being able to perform, to kind of show what you can do. So that's kind of what this has now become. These guys are looking for jobs and they're on these 1 year contracts where year to year, I mean, you don't know who's going to be sticking around. I mean, and that's not just quarterbacks, that's other positions as well. Obviously, Ohio State losing to Miami, I think the buzz was, will Jeremiah Smith entertain a Miami Hurricane uh, possibility here? Just
Yeah,
because, I mean, obviously he's from South Florida. A lot of those kids on the team, he knows. So um, that's the kind of stuff you're faced with now. And the reality is, if you're a freshman coming in and you're not touching the field at all, I mean, your window of opportunity continues to dwindle because all you have is practice tape. All you have is practice tape and nothing against an actual opponent during the regular season. So I think the mindset, I think we're going to see it. It's going to begin to shift because guys know the importance of I have to be on the field. I can't just be standing here on the sideline. And I think that's to the point of, and I'm sure we'll shift gears into high school. I think if we're getting in the minds of high school kids, they're kind of looking at that too. Like, well, I could play here, uh, but I don't know how much time I'm going to see. But if I play somewhere where I'm kind of more of a focal point or I'm more of a used athlete on the field or either side of the ball, I mean, hey, that's going to improve my chances of possibly getting recruited, getting offers, just because you want to have that field time. And I know in the past, kids go to high schools because of the name, because of the connections they believe those staffs have, that school has, versus like what their current situation is. And I mean, I guess I'm just somebody that believes that in Florida, especially, like if you're good and you're known, I mean, I think you can be found anywhere.
yeah,
I mean, you got players who, you know, played at Glade Central in the middle of kind of nowhere, chasing rabbits around and getting tons of offers. And then you got kids in other rural areas, Madison County, and
yeah.
I mean, there's just a number of situations where it's like, I'm not a big believer that if you're really good in the state of Florida, no one's ever going to find you. I think if you're really good, people are going to know your name.
Yeah, absolutely. Man, you bring up Jeremiah Smith possibly coming down to Miami. That's going to get a lot of fans excited for the Hurricanes. It makes sense, though. I do want to touch on that just for a bit, just because you brought it up. I mean, it makes sense to me for Jeremiah Smith to break the internet and say, I'm jumping in the transfer portal because Ohio State, the guy that recruited him, Brian Hartline, is no longer there. And Ohio State is obviously in a rebuild right now. I think the last time I checked is about 29 players have departed from Columbus, which is an astronomical number for a program of that stature. So is Jeremiah Smith going to stay? Should he come back? I think it makes sense, doesn't it? I feel like it makes sense for him to come back down to Miami, especially with all the success that the Hurricanes have had this season, win or lose in that national championship game. This is absolutely a successful season for the Miami Hurricanes. I believe that this is the first time ever that they've had 13 wins in their history, which is saying a lot. Obviously, it's because of the playoff, but still, um, they're having a historic season by all means. So why not just kind of ride that momentum? Especially maybe he's waiting to see what quarterback they do get out of the transfer portal. I know that's important to him. It's been important to him in the past. What quarterback is throwing him the football? Obviously, he's a wide receiver. Can't do anything without a good quarterback. So we'll see how that shakes out. I'm interested to kind of see if Jeremiah Smith comes home to Miami. That will be, that will send shockwaves through the college football world. But I do think that it does make sense for it to happen.
Yeah, I know it would. I mean, it make all the sense in the world just because of, I mean, Miami was right there in that process to the end, and I think there was a lot of people that believed to a degree that he may end up becoming a Hurricane, and then he ended up sticking with Ohio State and going through with that, and that's obviously played out really well for him and the Buckeyes. But it's just a story that obviously a lot of people in South Florida, and if you really dug into more of about Jeremiah and just the journey he's had, I mean, it's a homecoming. I mean, it would just be
Sure,
celebrated by everybody in the 954 and the 305. Just
sure,
him in Miami having that, bringing it all together. But I mean, hey, Hartline going to USF, obviously to me that already starting to see kind of the ripple effect from that. Bryson Rogers was at Ohio State. He was at Wiregrass Ranch in Pasco County. Transfers to USF. I mean, makes sense. Hartline's the head coach, so he's. I mean, I don't know how many Ohio State guys he's going to be able to pull like that, but I mean, hey, get a few, and that I'm sure to him that's a win.
absolutely. Let's talk a little about the quarterbacks in the state. Let's kind of make a prediction as to, because I had a list of quarterbacks that we could discuss here. But now that we've already gone almost 20 minutes here
Yeah.
discussing various topics, which quarterback do you think, as far as that's either that's on in the 2026 class or just transferred in, do you think will have the most successful career? So I'm talking about Will Griffin, Darion Coleman, which we just discussed, Rocco Marriott at UCF, Jaden O'Neal, Oklahoma product at Florida State, and South Florida, USF. They brought in Luke Kromenhoek, who I didn't even realize was at Mississippi State, is now, who was formerly at Florida State, is now with USF. Out of all those quarterbacks, which one do you think it will have the most successful career?
Ooh. Well, I mean, I almost go refer back to these 1 year deals because these guys, who knows how long they'll actually be at their schools. Will Griffin to start. I mean, you got a new head coach in Summerall, so how does he approach freshman quarterbacks? Is he open to giving a guy like Griffin a shot early on? I I think that has to play out. Obviously, DJ Lagway not returning is a start, because if you have him returning, well, you can, you know, check that off of, yeah, definitely not happening for me in 2026.
Right.
But new head coach, obviously, it's a little bit more wide open in terms of being able to have more of a open mind on who the quarterback may be, instead of kind of already locked in. We have our guy. You're going to be sitting at least until he's out of here. So And I'm just going to kind of go one by one from what I know. I mean, Jaden O'Neal, he played at Mustang High School, really good quarterback out of Oklahoma. Going to Florida State. I feel like Florida State's just, they're going to keep searching through the transfer portal to try to get somebody that's experienced. And I know that's been the word whenever I hear big name quarterbacks, Florida State is involved in talks. And um, I career wise, I don't know. I mean, I I just revert back to, do you stick it out? Do you stick it out? And that's any of these guys. Rocco Mary over at Platte County in Missouri, he got an award for did the Rivals Missouri Player of the Year awards, and he was one of our Player of the Years. Obviously, has the talent, has the kind of the stats that you would want to see out of a quarterback.
Definitely has the stats that you would want to see if they're going to be successful.
Yeah, yeah. I think these guys. I actually, Cromenhawk to me could have the best career of them all, just because he already comes with experience. You kind of know based on his the minimal amount of action he had at Mississippi State. Um, he could go into this situation at USF and he could end up starting this season just because he already has a leg up when you're talking about on-field play. He's already had snaps. Hartline will probably, I would imagine, like that. I mean, you do have other guys that are there that and that they're recruiting, that they're looking at, but this was one that obviously he entered the portal, signed with USF, threw for already over 500 yards when he over at Hale State. So I mean, right now, of those guys, just because the others are all going to be incoming freshmen, and it's going to be, I think this is just a loaded question for anybody. I think if it was
Yeah.
thrown back to any person, it's so hard to say, because it's not like, if we compared it to the NFL, if a guy gets drafted, I mean, he would have he's got to be there for 4 years at least, unless if it's like soured over in 2 years, and they decide, hey, we're gonna move on from this guy. It's not working out. He's already like shown this level of play that's not going to be um, up to satisfaction. But in the NFL, you're guaranteed you're going to probably be with that team you get drafted by first 3 or 4 years. Like, that's because that's an investment now. College football, they're on these 1 year deals, so it's like, how do we know anyone's going to stick around? That's kind of that's what plays in my mind anytime I see these transfers, because and anytime I see high schoolers committing to a school. How do you know they're going to trust the process, stay at that college, see it out, see it through? I don't know. I think my guess is as good as anybody else's.
Yeah, I hear you, man. It's a complex situation. Everyone's out there looking for the next Fernando Mendoza, right? Which brings me to the national championship game, man. National championship game is coming up on Monday, and I'm excited for it. I unfortunately will not be in the building.
Well,
Yeah, I know, sucks. I'm trying not to be too salty about it, but ever since I guess my role changed to recruiting and not so much the Hurricanes, the powers that be have deemed me not necessary to be in the building, which kind of sucks because I've covered like most of the players that are in that game. Like most of the players that are in that game I've known probably since they were freshmen. We're talking about Malachi Tony and Ruben Bain and Wesley Basaint and Bryce Fitzgerald. I mean, I can go on and on. Jojo Trader and Fernando Mendoza,
yeah.
and D'Angelo Pons. These are all South Florida guys that I've covered over the years. So unfortunate, but nonetheless, so we do have a national championship game in Miami And I just kind of want to get your quick take on it, man. Like, do you think the Miami Hurricanes will pull off the upset over the Indiana Hoosiers? I believe they're 8-point dogs right now.
I absolutely believe they can. To go out on the limb and just say they're going to do it, I mean, it's hard to bet against them at this point. Just I said to people last week after the win, I said this team is built for the playoffs. When you look at how they play the game and how, like, offensively, I mean, it's still that run first mentality. Fletcher has been an absolute just dog out of the backfield for them. Just and he's that guy you can lean on, and they have other guys obviously that they can hand the rock off to, but he's their main ball carrier. And I mean, this absolutely has a American Heritage, Shamana Madonna flair to it, because all the names
Yeah,
I feel like, and of course Miami Central with Ruben Bain. I feel like every time they say a name for the Miami Hurricanes, I go, "Yep, seen him, covered him." You know,
yeah,
it's just these guys are now your household names throughout these college football playoffs. And I mean, Indiana, obviously. And you know what's crazy, Marcus, is somebody asked me at the beginning, like, what would be the best matchup for the championship game? And I said, Indiana, Miami. And they were like, why? Why would that be the best matchup? And I said, think about it. Indiana, and this story obviously is taking the country, because everybody's fascinated with Coach Signetti, his facial expressions on the sideline, his
yeah,
one-liners, and obviously, I mean, heck of a coach.
for
And then you
sure.
got Fernando Mendoza, probably the best college football interviewer, or player that gets interviewed. I mean, he sounds like somebody who practices in front of a mirror and then goes and
For
has
sure.
these interviews, and is able to be as talkative as anybody. But they're like America's team right now. Everybody's behind them because they're the they may be the favorite by the game line, but they're like an underdog in a sense of they've been a downtrodden program for most of their time. Like, just these last couple years, they've risen to prominence. And then you have the Miami Hurricanes, who obviously have a storied history, but it's taken a long time for this to kind of get back to everybody always saying the line of, is the U back? Is the U back?
Yeah,
Is the U back? And then finally they're back in this championship game, but the game is in Miami. The national championship game is in Miami.
yeah.
And Fernando Mendoza, being a former Columbus Explorer, I mean, could Hollywood have written the script for this? I mean,
Yeah,
I don't think you could have gotten a better matchup, to be honest.
yeah, I agree with you 100%. Just the Fernando Mendoza storyline in itself is just a great one. And then Malachi Tony, just turned 18, having a sensational a record-setting freshman season. You've got players that we will probably see for many years in the NFL, and Ruben Bain and Akeem Mesidor, Francis Mauanoa. I think these guys will have long sustained NFL careers. So we'll look back at this game and say, "Oh man, this game was loaded with NFL caliber guys." So, yeah, the Fernando Mendoza story is definitely one a very high note, because Miami did not recruit this guy at all, you know, and Fernando Mendoza, I'm not Fernando Mendoza, man. I have known him since he was a freshman, and it wasn't as boisterous as he is now. I would say that, but he was always very humble, always looking to improve. He would text me at times and ask me, "Oh, what can I improve with my game? What did you like from me at a certain camp?" He was at football hotbed camps. He was at a ton of things. His dad is a great guy. Spoke to him plenty of times because, of course, he had Fernando and Alberto, his two sons, playing at a very high level. Who who knows if Fernando even ends up at Indiana if Alberto doesn't sign with Indiana himself. That's a storyline we're not even talking about. That the
Right.
fact his little brother, who people would say played better as a high school football player than Fernando, is a backup quarterback on the team. So I'm totally rooting for Fernando just because I love him as a kid, love that family, rooting for him. But the Hurricanes have to be kind of thinking back like, dang, did we miss out on a guy? Because not only is was Fernando just a South Florida guy, but he's a Columbus guy, which Mario Cristobal is also a Columbus alum, and
Yeah.
so is Alex Mirabal, the offensive line coach as well. And they brought in guys from Columbus, throughout the years. Bryce Fitzgerald is from Columbus. So yeah, so that is a very interesting storyline. Miami has kind of passed on certain South Florida guys for whatever reason. They passed on Fernando Mendoza, who I will say did not look like the 5-star that he is now, to be
Yeah.
honest with you. When I watch Fernando Mendoza now in college football, I'm blown away. I'm just like, wow, this kid has everything because he has the poise. He can make every throw. Probably doesn't have the strongest arm in the world, but can make every throw, is athletic enough to get you first downs, and is just a leader.
Yeah.
And I think that's probably the area where he's grown the most. And he has to show that in this national championship game to win. I think it's going to be a close game, to be honest. I've heard people say that Indiana is going to blow Miami out. I don't think so at all, just because Miami's game is very slow and it's very methodical. I would
Yeah.
think it's going to continue to be that way, and they're going to try to grind on you for 6-7 yards, and Carson Beck's going to run for 4, whatnot, and they're going to have they have that balance, I think, and Malachi Tony can take it the distances anytime. Keelan Marion has come on as a playmaker. And what worries me, though, is the fact that their defensive backfield is decimated with injuries, though. Xavier Lucas is likely going to be out for the first half because of that bogus targeting call in that last game. OJ Frederic doesn't seem like he's 100%. So, and Damari Brown didn't even dress in the last game. These are all, once again, South Florida guys that I've covered since
Yeah.
they were very young. I'm concerned about that defensive backfield. Jacoby Thomas, that looks like he was kind of banged up as well. So I'm concerned with the defensive backfield of Miami. So there's probably going to be some young guys that are going to need to step up here, including Jabari Antoine, who we saw in the last game. So can they hold up against these receivers? I'm not so sure. I'm not saying that Miami is going to win this game. But I'm not saying that they're going to lose either. It's really tough for me to really kind of pick this game. I don't know why I even brought this up.
No, okay. Well, I'm gonna go ahead. I'm gonna say I think Miami is gonna win the game. I think
Okay.
that everything going in, Indiana does seem like this team of destiny, and I think this. I mean, 8.5-point favorites. I mean, when you're talking about betting lines, I mean that's. I mean, hey, you might as well just say they're getting blown out. And for as good as they played against Oregon, you got to believe you got to believe that's not going to just happen again. Like they're not just going to 50-piece Miami and run away with it in their home stadium. I mean, you're
Yeah.
going to have now the crowd factor. I mean, Indiana obviously made Mercedes-Benz Stadium just into a home game. I mean, by all accounts, watching it on TV, it sounded like a Hoosiers home game. Not going to be the case down in Miami. Obviously, Miami fans are going to be there well represented. Indiana's obviously going to do their best to try to offset that, but I think you're going to have more of the the hurricane flavor to it when you're looking at the fans down there, just because it's practically a home game, even though oddly enough Miami is the away team in this
Yeah.
game. So yeah, I just think no one's really expecting them to win. They're, like you said, I mean, they could be happy that they made it, but they're obviously not. They're behind closed doors saying we can definitely win this. I mean,
Yeah.
and why wouldn't they believe that? They're in that position. They've beaten the teams that they've needed to beat. I mean, you beat last year's champion in the playoffs, so I mean, it's almost like a why not Miami?
Yeah.
Because they've just seemed like a powerhouse, but they haven't seen a team with the athleticism, with the kind of balanced attack that Miami has. And I think that to me is why I look at them as such a playoff team, dangerous playoff team, because they can beat you running the rock. They could sit back and go 3 5-step drops with Carson Beck, and he can read the field and go through the progressions and find open guys. They could go play action pass. They can really do it all. And
Yeah.
I don't think they're kind of confined to like they can really only do it one way. And if that doesn't work, it just everything begins to unravel. It's like Indiana, if Fernando doesn't play well, I mean, I'm not quite sure how are they going to be able to really operate. I mean, because he's coming off maybe one of the most efficient college football playoff games of all time. I think it
Yeah.
was 17 of 20 for like 5 touchdowns, no
Yeah.
picks.
He's on a heater for
Unbelievable.
sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's on a heater for sure. It's hard it's hard to imagine both ways here. It's hard to imagine that Indiana will be stopped, and it's hard to imagine that Indiana will score a lot of points against Miami based on what we've seen in these playoffs. Like I said, I think it's going to come down to how healthy is that defensive back room of Miami, and then Carson Beck, man, the Mandarin alum. I That's another player that I was there when he won a state championship against Columbus. Coincidentally, right? Coincidentally, Fernando Mendoza, I don't think was on that team. Um,
No,
yeah,
that's the
it
funny
was,
thing. His brother won 2 titles, and Fernando didn't win a state title. Like not
yeah,
as a starting quarterback, anyways.
not as a starter. So yeah, it's very interesting to kind of see who pulls this off. I'm not gonna pick against Miami because it's just not in my nature to do so. But I think Indiana will probably find a way. I could see them finding a way to win because Miami is decimated in the defensive backfield. I just feel like it's going to be tough for Miami to continuously stop that offense, but it should definitely be a great game. And we'll see what happens on Monday night, man.
Yeah.
Yeah. Last thing, quickly before I get you out of here, we want to talk a little high school. The transfer portal has been crazy, and I just want to kind of point out two programs in particular in South Florida that are doing an amazing job with accumulating talent. It seems like that's definitely a shift going on down here in South Florida compared to last year. Two teams that had some disappointing seasons for their standards are Carroll City and Columbus. Carroll City's been kind of off the map for a while since Coach Hippolyte left the program a few years back. And Columbus had a really down year last year, not really up to their standards. But both are
Yeah.
accumulating all kinds of talent. Uh, and
Yes.
when you look at the South Florida teams and those two teams in particular, Andy, who do you think is kind of doing the best job of accumulating talent here?
I gotta say, I think Columbus is really they've been the team that I think has accumulated maybe the most talent when you're looking at talent just coming in from via transfers. I mean, getting Amir Sears, the 4-star from previously West Broward. I mean, he's kind of a do everything type player. I mean, he can catch the ball out of the backfield. He can play running back, play a wide receiver. He can get on defense for you at defensive back and make plays. I mean, just looking at them, I mean, I say to myself, Columbus is really they've really done when you're looking at talent, anyways, incoming, they've accumulated probably the most. Carroll City, can't overlook that because Nicholas Lanier transferring from Miami Northwestern over there, combined with Malik Leonard coming over from Chaminade to play quarterback. I mean, you have to look at both of those guys heading over there and saying, wow, I mean, them coming off of a 6-5 season, a couple of above 500 seasons back to back for the Chiefs. So this is definitely, it's changing the environment for sure. But just last night broke the news that Miami Northwestern has decided on who their next head coach will be, and Jerome Thomas Jr., an alum of the Bulls, has been tabbed as the next head coach, and um, graceful enough to talk to me about him being promoted. He was a defensive backs coach last year. He has experience on the college level, playing at Texas Southern. Had a kind of a quick cameo in the NFL. Got his opportunity there, and I mean, he's not somebody that's expecting to be there for just a year. Obviously, last year with Coach Victorum and how that went down with him just being the interim coach, and then they opened that job up right after the state championship loss. I know that really went viral because a lot of people kind of like, man, tough gig, huh? I mean, you
Yeah.
take it to the state championship, you lose, and I guess you're out of a job. Um, I don't know if that was exactly the case. I mean, I'm sure that played a factor because if you win it, you know, if it ain't broke, why fix it? Type of deal. But um, I think that was kind of their plan all along, was to open that job up and see who would apply. And I don't think it was just a absolute done deal to promote him. And obviously, everybody was looking at Teddy Bridgewater. Like, now the Buccaneer season's over. Does Teddy make a return? Does he make this grandiose return? I mean, everything I had heard, that just seemed like something that wasn't going to happen at all unless if both sides kind of met in the middle. But I mean, Columbus to me stands out over Carroll City. I mean, just by a little bit, but it, we're so early in this. I mean, it's January, and I tell people, I mean, this is going to be all the way into the spring and obviously well into the summer.
Yeah.
So we're going to be kind of watching. The spring obviously is going to be a tall teller because kids that transferred in and become eligible, or they're able to play in the spring game, they're going to see how they're used. They're going to see how they like things in the spring, and they're going to come away with a new opinion of how they feel about that program that they transferred into, because who's to say they don't transfer again? And that's where I think we go down the rabbit hole of is Florida ever going to have rules when it comes to limiting transfers? Because I know there's a House bill that they've put together, the FHSAA and um, the Florida governing body, and Tallahassee is put together in the bill that it would limit the in-season transferring. Now, not out of season, but in season, because we did see this past high school football season, we saw some major. I mean, it almost looked like trade transactions to me, because you had Leon Strotter, who was at Miami Northwestern, who led the team to a state championship, and he was just kind of sharing time with Neiman Lawrence, and then he transfers over to Plantation American Heritage, and I think everybody was mind blown because they were like, "How could this happen?" And Darion Jones, another one, he was at Chaminade. He came from Tampa Bay Tech, went down there, by all accounts, doesn't sound like he was ever going to be the quarterback, and he ends up going to Venice. And I mean, what a talk about another perfect kind of situation for the quarterback. I mean, he steps in, and Venice, if they don't ever get him, who knows if they even finish above 500. But then they get him, and it's kind of life's good again, and they're right back in the conversation. So I don't know. I think there's a lot more to come. But so far in this, the mythical high school transfer portal race for talent, I mean, you'd have to say Columbus has probably seen the most returns out of this over anyone else.
Yeah, and one transfer to Columbus I do want to mention is Kai Moore, the
Yeah,
quarterback from Miami Norland. He's a quarterback that I think is really on the rise. And, to have a talent like Amir Sears to throw to, I think is going to be definitely beneficial for him and his career. So look out for Kai Moore to have probably a really big season, a breakout season, I think, for the Explorers. That's
yeah,
Andy Villamarzo from Rivals High School, kind enough to join me today for the South Florida Recruiting Report. Thank you, as always, for joining me today, and I look forward to seeing you in the future.
absolutely, man. Thank you for having me again.
All right, man. Thanks. That is going to wrap it up for the South Florida Recruiting Report. And we will, of course, continue to bring you South Florida recruiting news as well in the entire state. Battle Miami is coming up this weekend, one of the biggest tournaments, 7-on-7, in the entire country. So plenty of content to come from the Battle Miami tournament coming up this weekend. Until the next episode.